Welcome back. Matric pupils across South Africa are sitting for the final exams until Wednesday, the 6th of December. Meanwhile, the DA and ActionSA have expressed concern over pupils preparing for exams during load shedding. Now, ActionSA has requested the Department of Basic Education to table a plan on how it intends to mitigate the situation. For more on this conversation, we're now joined by the Northern Cape ActionSA chairperson, Mr. Andrew Louw. Mr. Andrew Louw, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. Now, the matrics of 2023 were some of the worst affected students 2 years ago when they were in grade 10 during the pandemic. How much more are they disadvantaged currently?
Well, thank you very much to allow ActionSA to speak on this matter. For us as ActionSA, there remains a persistent inequality in educational opportunities. And South Africans living in historically disadvantaged areas, they still receive the lower quality education than South Africans living in historically affluent areas. Now recently as ActionSA, we went to a policy conference, and at that policy conference, we actually have approved many policies, and education happens to be one of those policies that we have approved. And in there are three very important things that we mentioned in our policy. We say there that our core values is that education is our most powerful tool in creating prosperous society. Education must empower our people. Education does not only take place in classrooms, but requires an entire approach of society, which means families must get involved, communities must get involved, society, the media, unions, politicians, and the list can carry on. All of us, we must unite behind improving our educational outcomes. And it is a sad case that we have noticed now recently that learners from a high school in Springbok, SA van Wyk, in Bergsig, matriculants that are preparing for the matric exams, that they have to study under a cell phone torchlight. It is really a concern. And I'm very excited that community members and members in that community have deemed it fit to actually report this matter and to blow this thing up in social media. Because it cannot be that as parents and as societies and people that shape the future of our young people, that we just sit backwards and do nothing about it. As ActionSA, just as much as we have approved an educational policy, it is also important that we make sure that each and every learner, each and every child, regardless of his or her background, their child must be given a fair chance in society. Their child must be allowed to be able to progress and also to be able to develop and to be able to exceed his or her potential. That can only happen once each and every learner gets a fair chance in life. And the matter of load shedding, it is really worrisome that Eskom, in that community, that Eskom cannot really, for the period that we are busy now, that our matriculants are busy writing exams, surely they can control this. We know that this is something that is happening nationwide, but we would have liked to see as ActionSA that a real contingency plan must kick in, where our learners during this time, where they can really study in a conducive environment, where they can study in an environment that would enable them so that they can reach their full potential and so that they can actually give the best results.
So, Mr. Louw, you mentioned the issue of electricity, and the Minister of Electricity in response to this has come out to say that exempting all schools from load shedding would be disastrous. You also speak of action plans that need to take place in order to mitigate this. What practical alternative would ActionSA express, especially in a time where we know that load shedding is a big problem in South Africa, and what they've done now is lessening the hours of load shedding and trying to accommodate especially the studying during night time? What practical alternatives would ActionSA suggest?
It is a known fact that the education department gets the biggest chunk of the budget in all provinces. Now, notwithstanding the fact that one would have expected that the education department, they need to have reprioritized their priorities in terms of making sure that the least that they could have done, because learners and schools that are badly being affected by this are normally those in your rural areas, by and large. We would have expected, as ActionSA, that the least that the government would have done is to make sure that each and every school, they being capacitated for a short period of time, even if it's just a matter of hiring some generators to make sure that our children and learners in each and every school where there is a need, especially our disadvantaged areas, because they are the ones that have to bear the brunt of bad management, and also they are the ones that will have to face the consequences at the end of the matric term.
And what would you suggest to be the long-term solutions to this? I mean, because we speak of hiring generators, and come next year, we're most likely going to find ourselves in the same situation where we're now going back and looking into these budgets where already there's shortages in terms of other resources that students need. What are some of the long-term? I mean, you spoke of some of the policies that ActionSA has put together in empowering people and ensuring that these are societal efforts that we are making. How do we ensure this on a long term?
Well, it's a known fact that our basic education system is dysfunctional due to weak institutional functionality, involvement of trade unions, sometimes due to teachers not rocking up, sometimes due to content knowledge and teaching skills, and the list can carry on. However, we can never run away from the fact that in many of our schools, and here I would also like to use the opportunity to once again congratulate and urge our teachers. Many of them, they are making sacrifices. Many of them have to go through difficult circumstances to try and get these learners through their matric year. What we would suggest must happen here is, and we can complain and talk about, because one of the main things that we hear very often is people telling you about budgets. The question that a person would ask is, how much is enough? What needs to happen is, we need to look at what we have now at the current moment. Education department must trim the fat on the unnecessary things that are currently being used within the department. They need to actually go back to the drawing board. They need to reprioritize and see whether some of the things that they need, are they really necessary? Because the child should become everybody's business. The child should become priority number one for the education department. And once that triangular can work, it's the learner, it's the teacher, and it's also the community. Once that triangular can work, then we will definitely not be sitting with a situation where we will experience, the evils of our society. But long-term solutions would be that we definitely need to look at every school, because load shedding is something that we don't know for how long we're going to be with load shedding. Well, as far as we are concerned, we should be able to plan accordingly. And that should be something that every new school, every new clinic that gets erected, there should be systems must already be in place. A plan of action should already be in there. With the approval of the plan, there should be already backup generators that would form part of the reopening of such an institution or building, for that matter.
And your plea currently to the Minister of Basic Education, what do you expect of her between now and the 6th of December while matrics are writing their final exams?
Well, every learner and every child that's writing matrics at the moment, it should be our business as community leaders, as parents, and as church leaders. And therefore, I would say that the minister must really, there should, a contingency plan, a plan of action must actually be put into place. Because, sometimes when certain things do not affect, because education is something that affects everybody. It's everybody's business. That is why I would think that for now, a concerted effort must be made in order to go out and even approach the private sector and find out from them, people that are in a position where some of these learners who have to study and then have to learn and have to write exams under this unbearable situations, that for now, as community leaders and even school principals and so on, they must try and approach some of these institutions, some of the people in those communities who do not experience load shedding because they've got backup generators. That might be a kind of a gentleman's agreement can be reached. But the most important thing should be, we must be able to put the learner first, because ultimately they are our future leaders, and they are the ones that have to go through this situation where they have to study under these dreadful situations. It cannot be that in this day and age, that almost 30 years down the line, that not a real proper plan can be put on the table by the government of the day to say that as much as we do not we did not and could not anticipate load shedding. But the fact of the matter is, load shedding is here. Load shedding is a reality. And for now, whilst we're still living with load shedding, there should be a system and plans in place that can speak and address the immediate solutions of load shedding as well as the long-term solutions of load shedding.
All right, Mr. Louw, thank you so much for your time and for your inputs this evening. That was Northern Cape ActionSA chairperson, Mr. Andrew Louw, speaking to us there about matriculants writing their final exams in the dark.